Yeah, man, me too. I was like, it was like half an hour. Yeah, it's incredible. We covered the whole. Listen, so there are a couple of things I do want to touch on also remaining, which is and short ones, which is what's your position on the balance between nature and development? Where are you on the whole nature view of the island versus the development view of it, and how does that fit into your economic thinking and the culture of the island, so where do you come out on nature and development and economy?
Well,
nature is the main question.
Yeah. No. Well, let's put it this way. It starts and ends with sustenance, right? We have a situation where people need to live. The biggest problem we have, the biggest threat to nature, and I always tell everybody that the biggest threat to nature is poverty. Because if people are poor,
they're gonna do whatever. They'll cut the trees down. They'll fish whatever they need to eat. They'll survive.
Whatever they'll survive.
Yeah,
it's human nature. Yeah, it's human nature. We believe that nature, tranquility, unreal, unspoiled, unforgettable, is the core basis of the success of Bonaire. If you read history books on Bonaire, all the descriptions of Bonaire when the Spaniards came around, when the Dutch came around, Bonaire was an impenetrable forest, trees.
True.
Look around in Bonaire right now, you see only shrubs.
Yeah.
Why? Back in the 1900s, beginning of 1803, 1806, apparently France, Napoleon conquered Holland again.
Yeah, had part of this.
Yeah, and England had authority over the islands. England leased Bonaire out to an American entrepreneur who came down and cut all trees. In Dutch it was a grove.
That's what the story is. Yeah.
Apparently these trees even resulted in the state house of the governor house in New York State. That's a myth. That's what I heard. I really want to confirm that. Well, that would be awesome to hear where things resulted.
Well, I mean, if you think about the fact that a bunch of the people
Indians are
here, it's not completely unreasonable that that ship didn't go back empty.
So this is in the 1900s, beginning of the 18th century. 1800s, beginning of the 19th century. When we talk about nature, we have really altered the whole situation of the nature in Bonaire. But let me go back to some basics. So we believe that nature is an integral part of our development. But we as people, as humans, have altered Bonaire's nature drastically. One, by cutting all the trees. Two, exploding part of the island to create inland waters that salinated a lot of our things, our freshwater aquifers. But what we did in the past, and we're not doing enough anymore, we're not having a real water management policy and water retention policy. So, for example, when we had the rainfall last year, I heard some government politicians yell, it's the Stinapa's fault because Stinapa doesn't want the water to go to sea. Well, which is nonsense. Stinapa doesn't make any laws. The government makes laws. It's the government who decided that we want to protect coral. Stinapa executes the laws that the government makes. But what did we have in the past? Mind you, Bonaire is 288 square kilometers, right? There's 500 millimeters of rainfall a year on average on Bonaire. That equates to 144 million cubic meters, million cubic liters, so tons, 144 ton of water, rainfall a year.
If you save that, you'd be quite okay.
The production of wet per year for this year was estimated to be 2.1 million. So we have 144 free
falling on us.
rain falling down.
Just
We
going-
guide it straight to the sea, and then we pump out of the sea to use reverse osmosis to create two.
using imported fossil fuel.
Imported So again, what kind of stupid are we? What we had in the past, and if you look at the rainfall now, you see also these plumes, right? All of these pictures, the
Sure.
plumes of the sand
Sure.
and the dirt. You know, we never had that.
Right.
You know why we never had that? Because
The
if
trees.
we did, not only that,
Oh.
if we did have that, you wouldn't have the coral there, right?
Yeah.
Because that sediment is detrimental for coral.
Construction and
What we had in the
Trees.
past, we had a system of rainfalls, and with rainfall, we had our gutter system, you could say, or riol system. And we had
most houses had a way to collect
one, but we had systems of salinha. So the parking space
yeah.
in front of where, for example, the tax office is, the bank's parking space downtown,
But filled up.
that was a salinha.
Yeah.
Where the warehouse is,
Yeah.
the supermarket was a
Yeah.
salinha. All that area in the back. And what they did many basins. So
Yeah.
what happens, all that rainfall comes,
Yeah.
it falls into one basin,
Yeah.
the sediments sink, the water, clear water flows over to the next one. Again, a chance gets for the water to
distill.
So when it's so much rain that it reaches the sea,
All clean.
it's clean that goes to the sea. But what else did you get? In those salinas stayed fresh water with a little bit of the salt water. You had, back in the day, we had ducks, animal life, mangroves. Well, what did we do?
Chop it off and
We
create channels for the water.
we packed it with buildings
Yeah.
and houses, and we destroyed our whole historical
Ecosystem.
water management system, because every time that it went into one of those basins, of course some can go up with
Evaporation, yeah.
evaporation, but some also goes down into our aquifers.
Aquifers, yeah.
And because of that, because again,
The wells.
we broke water, bring it in closer inland, so you get more salt water coming in, less sweet water going down. What happens with the water? It becomes brackish, because we created a system where through the osmosis that we are creating brackish water. Okay, so if we want to talk about sustainable and the importance of nature, let's stop only talking about it, because that's one biggest problem I have. Well, with nature, what do? We become tree huggers. We only want to hug the tree and let's hug the tree. And for the rest, what you do, sit at home and complain about that the nature is going bad. No. Are you getting your ass out of your chair and helping, for example, Elsmarie, one of them, doing the reforestation?
Of time.
Will we start doing that as a government? We should start, even in my opinion, policy to start planting also. It's not all of them are native, but
Terra Bara is also.
Terra Bara, but making a government policy. Every house,
Must
yard, have X amount. Finance it even. Say, listen, we as a government, we pay for it. Maybe you not must.
Can
put
the
it.
roads not have also drainage that actually?
We need, well,
Shouldn't-
that's one of the biggest policies we talked about. And
Yeah.
it's this thing I spoke about a lot of times. So what do? We paved the island,
Created fast
did rooftops,
Yeah.
prohibited in the 80s, 90s that you can have your own
cistern.
water
Yeah.
cistern.
Yeah.
Why? Because the
Support
government was
web.
too lazy to go around and put fish in it and abandon it so they don't have mosquitoes. But you're living in a tropical island. We created roads, and when we talk about infrastructure in Bonaire, all they talk about is pavement. They don't talk about the infrastructure about it. So one of the primary things we have, and I made a discussion with this many times. We made illustrations to show it. It costs on Bonaire around $1,500 per, in Dutch we would say, strekking per meter of road, right? It's 6 meters wide, 1 meter of road, around 1,500 for 1 meter.
Building it.
So 1 kilometer would be 1.5 million, right? Just imagine that it would cost $300 extra per meter
To put
a huge concrete pipe, which would one serve as a water overflow surge. Two, you put an internal pipe into it that when you have to do cabling, when you have to put water pipes, don't cut in my road anymore.
Yes.
Every other half a kilometer or
Open
kilometer, there is a cross a pipe, but you do not cut in my roads anymore to destroy my infrastructure. Imagine it would cost $300 per meter extra. So that would be an increase of 20%, right? So 1.5 would become 1.8. So in that whole project, I would have a passive investment of 20% more. But lifespan, let's say 25 years for economic reasons. But that could even last because the ones in Rome, it was in forever. The first priority would be to guide that water inland to help the aquifers. Aquifers. Send it to the ground, let it push out. Why? Because we are helping nature recuperate. Because mind you guys, if the water gets also brackish, it also lowers the pH. So it makes it sour.
No, alkali.
Yeah. So it
affects
the
soil.
whole soil quality, blah, blah, blah. So if we can send what we can into the aquifers, store what we can for long term, use caves, use covered places to avoid evaporation, send it in for farming. And what we cannot store, because that's the problem in Bonaire, it's 500 on average a year, millimeters, but it comes most of it comes in 3 month time.
Yeah.
So about 300-400 comes in 3 month time, and then we have 9. But if you store it, we have the same problems. Look what they do in California. They put balls on it to avoid evaporation, but they have it on land. Let's try to do it. Well, so imagine, out of the 144 million that falls on Bonaire, we managed to catch 30%. It's 50 million. Imagine from that 50 million, we are able to only use 20%. Yeah, so 30%, 20%. So at the end of the day, we're talking about 6% that we're effectively using. 6% comes down to around 10 million cube. 10 million. That's 5 times what web produces. So we're paying right now, let's say that the whole water production of web costs us 3 million a year, 5 million a year. The whole water production. We're paying 5 million to pump water out of the sea, to turn it around into sweet water, then for us to use it to flush our toilet, then for us to refine it, to pay 30 million again for a system, paying 3 million a year to refine it, to get 300,000 cube back
as for
which we have to pay 3 times as much as we paid for the clean. So it's 375 on average.
So what I'm hearing from you is that
how long would it take to make an investment?
But this holistic approach is completely missing, and that in fact, even if we did this, not only would we benefit ourselves economically and otherwise, we would also be a lab, like an innovation lab for others to come and see what we've done, and we could even export it as a potential service.
We're talking just now about long-term policy, right? Imagine if we put in our long-term policy that this is our goal, right? I'm not going to say that whole infrastructure is going to be there in years, in days, in months. But Rome wasn't built in years either. But if it's
you have to have
structural component of our long-term policy that every road we build
has to have
we add that 20% cost.
Yeah.
Again, if WEP does, let's say, 5 million, 3 million a year in water production, for water production. Let's say 3 water production. It's much more probably than 3. it's costing 300, let's say, per square. Because you're digging the hole already, it's putting that pipe extra in. For per meter, 300, let's say. 20% increase. How long does it take to have a return? Nothing. The moment you have a good part of the infrastructure in place, you'll get the return right away.
Absolutely.
Because you have free water for agriculture.
Yeah.
Then the whole business case of doing agriculture changes.
Yes, for sure.
Completely.
For sure.
And we just talked about recuperating 6%. So 30 of the total, 20 of.
So what I hear you say is basically when you talk about nature, you're basically saying, look, you can make nature work for you. Essentially, you can work with it. You can actually.
Isn't that what makes us human? In the sense
the
that
genius of humans was essentially that.
But we damaged nature also. So we have a responsibility
to put back what we.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me close essentially because we've had a long, fantastic conversation. But you have not been in government for a while.
No, since the Democratic Party has been
2015.
2000 no in 1999 was the last time
you had
they set a full period.
Full period.
After that, we've been in government for 9 months in 2010.
Yeah.
1 year in 2015.
Yeah.
3 months in 2017.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So a total of 2 years.
And
no, it's 6 months in 2011.
Is
2.5 years.
Is this
in the past 23 years?
Is this going to be your time? What's your?
That's up to the people, my friend.
Yeah.
You asked me just now, is it difficult to work with us? No, they actually not. But I feel that sometimes the local parties, it is. Why? Because for the same reason people lose trust in politics. We do not negotiate on those
core principles.
No. You cannot negotiate on those.
The other people of Bonaire,
because we become more the same, and we will never become.
Are the people of Bonaire open to your way of thinking about Bonaire? Why have they allowed this to continue? If
I think they are. In 2015, I started in politics, active politics.